Welcome, everyone. We will start shortly with our community meeting. We're going to allow time for people to join us. If you can hear me in the chat function, put where you are coming from, what your hometown is. So if your hometown's Atlanta or Richmond, in the chat function, go ahead and put where you are coming from. Looks like we got a few people from all over Houston, Texas, Frederick, Maryland, New York, Connecticut, Vermont, coming from all Ashburn, Virginia. Are there anybody from Georgia out there? New York? I'm thinking about going, okay, Georgia, I see you. Oh, Atlanta, that's where I'm from. I'm actually thinking about going to New York for Labor Day. I haven't decided yet. Scottsdale,
Non
Arizona.
Scottsdale.
Chicago. Chicago's wonderful. I love it. New Orleans is wonderful too. I love New Orleans. Yes.
Maine. Would love to live there.
Okay. We're going to give it a few minutes as we wait for everyone to join us. If you're just joining us, we have over 300 people who are currently joining us. In the chat function, you can put your hometown. Hometown. Wichita, Kansas. Okay.
San
Seattle.
Fran.
They're coming from literally all over. Do we have anyone from international? Princeton. Oh, Albany, Georgia. That's rural Georgia. I'm familiar with that.
Germany.
India. Yes.
Taiwan. Malawi.
Raleigh, North Carolina. Sudan. Awesome.
We're almost up to 500.
Indeed. We will start shortly, everyone. Join. Katie, you are frozen on screen. I don't know.
I'm frozen. Switzerland. Madison, Wisconsin. Woo-hoo-hoo. From the Dells. Okay, we're almost at 1,000 on our Zoom call, which is great. Okay. All right, community directors and Josh, are you ready? Angie, you have your hand up. I think that means you're ready, right? All right. Well, welcome everyone to our community meeting to kick us off for this year. I am going to share screen so everybody can see. We have a PowerPoint we're going to work our way through. Well, actually, I'm not going to do that first. We're going to do some introductions first. So if I can have the CDs turn their cameras on, introduce yourselves. So I'll start. I'm Katie Foltz. I'm the Assistant Director for Training and Leadership in Housing and Residence Life. I go by she, her, hers pronouns. And I don't work with a hall specifically, but I do work across campus with all the community directors and with any student leader in the residence halls potentially. Pass it to Josh.
Hello, good afternoon. I think I am back. I'm having a little Wi-Fi trouble. My name is Joshua McFadden. I go by he, him, his pronouns. I serve as the Associate Director for Sophomore and Upper Class Experience. So that includes East Campus, Roper, Cassell McDowell, Frequency in Nebraska. And it's good to be with you all today. And I will pass it to Camila.
Hey folks, my name is Camila. I use she or her pronouns, and I'm the community director for East Campus. Also, I've seen that some folks are saying the meeting's at capacity, which we anticipated. And so that's why we have this also live streaming on YouTube. And the link for that is in the initial email y'all received from Misty. I'll pass it to Angie.
Great, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angie Natoli. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the Anderson Hall Community Director. And I'll pass it to Brian.
Hey everyone, my name is Brian McCullum, originally from Charlotte, North Carolina. I saw some fellow Charlotteans in the chat. I'm the second half of the Anderson Hall Community Directors, 5th and 6th floor. And yeah, we are dropping the link to the YouTube live stream in the chat for those of you that cannot, for those of you who have friends that cannot get in to our Zoom meeting. Oh, and
alrighty. I'll just take it away.
Please, Marianne, we would love to hear from you.
Good evening or afternoon/evening. I am Marianne Jackson. I'm Community Director. This year, I'll be overseeing the Frequency in Nebraska. Shout out to those living in the apartments. Shout out to Lori. And I'm going to pass it to Stan the Man.
Hey y'all, my name is Stanley. I'm originally from Miami, Florida. So shout out to all my South Floridians on the call. I am the community director for Let's Hall this year. So I'll be overseeing that. And yeah, my pronouns are he, him, and his.
All right, I think that's everyone. You see us around, please be sure to say hello. All right, we are going to get started. All righty. All right, so welcome to our community at American University. So quick overview of what we're going to be discussing today. We're going to go through our introductions, which we just did. We're talking a little bit about our health and safety expectations for the residence halls. We'll talk about community expectations, emergency procedures, as well as residence hall policies and procedures that you need to be aware of. And then when we have finished that up, we'll have a couple Q&A. If you have any questions, we'll try to answer some of them. And then we will break out into your RA meetings. And I believe you got those links independently from your RAs. So we already did introductions. This is part of the residence life team that you are working with today.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Katie. We will go right into what do we mean when we say community director or CD? So the community director is a full-time master's level professional who lives in the residence hall. They're responsible for supporting the residents, fostering a safe, inclusive, and healthy living environment, and facilitating programming in the halls. The best way to contact them is through email. All of the community directors for your community are outlined on our website. The community directors also oversee directly the resident assistant or RA or the apartment assistant AA, and that is your main job here on campus.
Camila?
Someone was supposed to talk about health and safety guidelines before this.
We'll get there. That's next.
Okay, great. And so establishing a foundation for our community is really, really important. And we do that by creating an inclusive space for every resident, meaning that all members, regardless of your background and identities, belong here. And we expect all of our community members to show respect for each other, and we won't accept anything less. We're a community that supports and affirms each other, and we expect your floor space, your hall community, and the campus community to be a safe, open, and welcoming space. And we'll hold each other accountable to these standards, such as treating the floor and community with respect, fostering an inclusive community, attending community initiatives and floor meetings led by your RA and AAs, maintaining a clean environment on the floor and in your common spaces, adhering to our health and safety policies, including physical distancing and wearing masks, and all the signage that you'll see posted, upholding our general policies and procedures, and saying something and speaking up if you see something concerning by reporting it to a leader in your community, which can be your RA or AA or one of us.
So let's talk a little bit about health and safety. We know that we are meeting during a pandemic. The coronavirus came in the winter and soon froze out everything we consider normal. 3 things that I want you to take when you consider coronavirus in housing and residence life. 1, we have a leadership in place. Our leadership is diverse. Our leadership is experienced. Number 2, all decisions are made with the health and safety of our residents in mind. That is the bottom line. And then 3, that health and safety is a responsibility of everyone on this Zoom. We have leadership in place. Our leadership is prepared to make decisions. All decisions are made with health and safety, with the recommendation of our health officials on campus. And 3rd, everyone is needed to make sure that the health and safety of our residents is a top priority. Specifically, we want you to familiarize yourself with the COVID-19 policies and procedures on our webpage. And also remember that face coverings are required in all shared spaces, and you should follow the health and safety signage.
All right, so this year, in accordance with a COVID-19 policy, we have made adjustments to our guests in the residence halls. So residents are limited to one guest at a time, and they must be current AU students. Okay, so no more than one guest who is affiliated with the institution is permitted in your bedroom at a time. So you need to make sure that when you are coming into the building, you have a friend coming over. One, they are AU affiliated. Two, they have their AU ID. And three, you check them in at the front desk. This is for the health and safety of our entire community. If you were to have non-affiliated persons, such as mom and dad, cousins, friend from another institution, they will not be allowed to come into the building any time past the move-in period. So effective Monday, August 30th, which is tonight at midnight, students are the only individuals that are allowed in the building will be students who reside there and students who are AU affiliated. Failure to follow that policy will result in documentation and conversations with your community director and beyond potentially. I think Camila sort of did cover this one, correct? Already. Perfect. So we have community expectations, as Camila had discussed. Every person is a responsible member of the community, and it's important that you take the time to recognize the individuals in your community and follow standards that you are going to potentially talk about this evening during your meeting with your RA. So we're going to move into some of the emergency procedures that you need to be aware of in the residence halls.
Okay, so as you all know, we do have a police department on campus, the American University Police Department. They have two different numbers. The first number is their emergency number. You all can take a moment if you'd like to put this in your phone. This is a number that you would utilize if you do have any emergencies on campus or in the residence halls. You can give this number a call and they respond pretty immediately. They do also have a non-emergency number. You are also welcome to put this in your phone. This is for some more concerns that might not necessarily need an immediate response. So you can utilize either number. The emergency number is the important one to know. And our AUPD officers will respond as quickly as possible. So there is an on-call system within our residence halls. And we have 3 layers of on-call staff, as you can see here. So the first layer that we have is our student staff members. These are our RAs and our apartment assistants, our AAs, that are on call in the residence halls every single night starting at 8 p.m. And they're also on call during weekdays during the day. So if you ever need a student staff member to respond to an incident or you need assistance, there is someone on call during those hours. There is a phone number posted in every single building that can connect to the RA on call. Each building does have their own phone number. So when you go into those RA meetings following this meeting, make sure that you take down the RA phone number for your specific building and put it in your phone so that you have them. And like we said, they're also available posted throughout the halls and on the bulletin boards. So that's our first layer of call. The RAs and the apartment assistants have a second layer of support in the community directors. They're also on call every single day, 24/7. As well as senior administrative staff on call who support the community directors. So there are multiple layers to help when there are incidents going on in the residence halls, if anyone ever needs it. So feel free to utilize those resources to support your experience in the residence halls.
All right, we're going to talk fire safety for a couple of minutes. How many of you all have experienced an alarm thus far while living on campus? You can just type a yes in the chat. Yep. I know because I've had to experience them with you. So first things first, never assume it's a drill and always evacuate. We don't want you to risk any sort of a chance that there's danger. So always evacuate. Building occupants should immediately evacuate using the emergency exits and not necessarily always the lobby. If you're closer to the lobby, always go out whichever exit is closest to you. So that means the stairwells. If you have to push the door that has the alarm, go ahead and do it in those moments, never outside of the fire alarm being executed. If you shelter in place and call AUPD with your location if you are unable to physically evacuate and assistance is needed. You're going to walk on the sidewalks only, just in case we have emergency vehicles that need to enter through the gates and pass by. You're going to go to the evacuation locations for instructions, which I'll talk about in a second. You're going to stay out of the building until an all clear is given. You're always going to keep your one card on person. This is required per campus policy, not just during the fire alarms, and you're going to present it when re-entering the building. Now, we do understand that things do happen, right? You may be in the shower and unfortunately have to kind of rush to throw on some clothes and get outside, and you may forget your one card. We understand in those moments, but honestly, even if you are showering, and for those on South Side and those who aren't living in apartments, or East Campus, you should have your one card with you because you need to get back into your space. Because we don't deadbolt doors, safety practice. So some of the fire locations, for Anderson Centennial, Letts, and Roper, you will evacuate to the main quad. For East Campus, you're going to evacuate to that grass area on East Campus. For Hughes, McDowell, Leo, and Cassell, you're going to evacuate to the amphitheater, which is located behind Hughes Hall, between Hughes Hall and Bender. And for Nebraska, if you're living in Nebraska, you're going to evacuate to the grass area closest to Nebraska Avenue. So a couple more safety policies. Even if you are in an apartment style space, no candles or incense are allowed in your spaces. No smoking in or around residence halls. AU has a smoke and tobacco free policy. So AU is a smoke and tobacco free campus. So please remember this applies to all forms of smoking, including cigarettes, electronic cigarettes, vapes, and hookah smoked cigarettes. No appliances in students' rooms, on carpeted floors, in hallways, or other non-designated areas that have an external or exposed heating source, including but not limited to halogen lamps, space heaters, broiler ovens, grills, electric coffee makers, microwave ovens, hot plates, rice cookers, and electric water heating devices. You aren't to tamper with fire safety items. This includes extinguishers, smoke detectors, sprinklers, or exit signs. Do not use extension cords, only surge protectors. No hall sports, meaning no throwing items in the hall, no footballs, baseballs, teddy bears, I don't care what it is, no throwing anything in the halls to each other, because this can cause a major flood if the fire system is broken or tampered with, and no hoverboards or electric scooters.
All right, so we are going to talk specifically about some of the residence hall policies that we have in place, and what exactly they mean and how they impact you.
Great. So I did see some people had questions in the chat. If you're on our Zoom, you can use the Q&A feature and we can get to those at the end. So please use that feature. So community responsibility, the policies that we have in our halls are to foster a strong community and to create an academic environment where our residential students can thrive. And to do that, to ensure that that happens, we do have to have regulations that keep everyone safe and hold people accountable in what we hope is a restorative process. So we pull from our student conduct code and also our residential living agreement that forms the basis for a lot of these policies. You all have access to this information, and this information has been sent out, so please refer to it. And if at any point throughout the year you have questions about our policies, please refer to your RAs, your community directors, and so on. So one of our primary policies that really helps us uphold our academic environment is our noise and quiet hours. So we do have quiet hours that start 11 p.m. on weeknights, which is Sunday through Thursday for us, and 1 a.m. on weekends, Friday and Saturday. This also, though, another thing to note about this is we have 24-hour courtesy hours. So at no point should a noise level become extreme. We always want to be courteous of the fact that our academic spaces are our residential spaces are frequently academic spaces that are being used for studying and occasionally classes. So, appropriate levels of noise in common spaces is really important. Obviously, if there are consistent issues, they will be documented, and that will be a part of our conduct process if it reaches that point. We hope that people can talk to their neighbors about noise level, and that's something that student staff and professional staff don't necessarily have to address, but we will if it becomes an issue.
Hey, y'all. So I'm going to take some time to talk to you guys about the alcohol policy. So for alcohol in our residence halls, no possession or use of alcohol by persons under the age of 21. This is in line with national and federal law. So that's kind of what our policy is. If you're under 21, you should not have alcohol in your space. No providing, selling, or distributing alcohol to anyone who's under 21. Alcohol is prohibited in housing, rooms, or units. So whether it's a suite, apartment, a single space, where at least one of the residents is not 21. So this means if anyone in the space is under 21, there shouldn't be any alcohol present. This goes for even if you have someone who's visiting, and if you all are 21, if someone's visiting and they're under 21, you should not have alcohol in that space. Keep in mind that you all are accountable for what occurs in your room or in your spaces. So it is expected that you guys comply with the District of Columbia laws as well as federal laws while you're on campus. University policies surrounding possession, consumption, and distribution of alcohol also come into play. So the best thing to do is not to have alcohol in your spaces at all, ever, period, point blank. So with that, if you live off campus or are off campus and you're with your friends or something, keep in mind that Metro Police does respond to off-campus issues regarding underage drinking. So it is in your best interest as students of the university to not consume alcohol under the age of 21. These policies are also located in the housing licensing agreement, the student code of conduct, the residence hall regulations, and the AU policies website. Moving on to the university drug policy, illicit drugs of any kind, including marijuana, medicinal marijuana, or anything not here mentioned, anything that is illegal federally is also illegal on campus. So none of these are permitted in the residence halls. Marijuana use in any form. Marijuana use in any form, as well as possessing, buying, growing, transporting, selling, or distributing on AU property or in connection with the university is also prohibited. Drug paraphernalia, so bongs, pipes, rolling papers, anything of the sort is also not permitted. Sometimes, depending on the situation, a community director may be contacted to do an administrative search, and in that case, AUPD will respond as well to conduct that search of the space if deemed necessary. So it is, again, in your best interest to not have any illicit drugs or do any illicit drugs in your spaces as well. These policies, again, are outlined in your housing licensing agreement, your student code of conduct, the residence hall regulations, and on the AU policies website.
Some other really important policies to note is that while we love furry friends, pets are not allowed in our residence halls except for fish, unless you have been pre-approved by our office. And you will know if that's the case. We also do not allow the possession or storage of any firearms, explosives, or other weapons, including any lookalikes or imitation. And finally, in the case of any emergency or situation where pro staff is present, please follow our directions as we are implementing and activating our policies to keep everyone safe.
All right, so we've covered the policies that we really want to verbally talk to you all about. So we wanted to provide you some contact information for us. So if you want to contact the housing office who will directly make contact with any of us, you can email housing@american.edu, or you can give them a call at 202-885-3370. Additionally, all the community directors' contact information can be found on our website, and this would be specific for each individual community director for your community. So if you are in Anderson, you would want to make sure you're reaching out to Brian and Angie. If you're in Lutz, you want to reach out to Stanley, etc. So be sure that you take a look at that if you have any questions or you want to make contact with any of them. So we now have some time to answer questions for you, and I have been watching the questions come in. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to allow everybody to stay on the screen, and Josh and I can sort of bounce back and forth answering these questions.
Awesome. So I do see a number of questions about our guest policy that Katie highlighted in her screen. So just to reiterate that if you are not affiliated with AU, after the move-in point, so starting tomorrow, which is August the 30th, if you're not affiliated with AU, those guests are not allowed in the residence hall. And those guests who are AU affiliated, are AU students, need to be registered at our front desk. So when you bring a guest, you go to the front desk and you register them with our desk receptionist. There's a lot of questions about, well, will this policy be revisited? Will it be looked at again? Of course, we continue to monitor all updates with COVID-19. And as we continue to monitor all of the updates and informed with our health officials, we will also update our policy. But to be clear, that is the policy at this point, and that is the policy moving forward unless we were to update it.
I'm just scrolling through these. So the question we did get.
I was going to say there were a number of questions about search policy. If you want to address that.
Search.
Yes.
Search. So administrative searches. So our community directors, as well as we have an RA on duty, community directors, and then our senior administrator on duty. If students are participating in illicit activity and there needs to be an administrative search be done, it would be done by a professional staff member along with the presence of AUPD. There are several steps that we take prior to determining if that is done, including identifying different several different layers of the policy are being broken. So if we can potentially smell it, see it, if we receive notification that there is a larger problem, such as distribution from the space, we will work with AUPD to determine if an administrative search is warranted. They are limited. We don't do them often, but we do have the ability to do them if absolutely necessary. So the question was, to whom should I send tips of people endangering the general public by refusing to follow COVID regulations? Josh, do you want to take that one? I can answer that one. So COVID regulations, if somebody is not following the COVID policy, you can make an anonymous tip to, and report to the Student Code of Conduct Office, the Conduct and Conflict Resolution Office, or the Dean of Students Office if you know the information. Additionally, if you are noticing it on your floor and you have not, if you're not comfortable addressing the situation independently, you can share that information with your RA and we can work to document and address those individuals. The question about, are we allowed to bring our bicycles up to our room? So bicycles are allowed on campus. There are lots of storage spaces outside, as well as there's some internal like rooms are bike rooms. So there's one on East Campus, downstairs in the parking garage. There's one on in Cassell, as well as there's one in Nebraska Hall on the terrace level. You can utilize those. If you have them in your room, it is a conversation you need to have with your roommate regarding if that is a item that can be kept in the room due to space. I know that spaces can be cramped if you keep your bicycle in there. Does the guest policy apply to people living in our hall? Can we have more than 4 people in our, that if they live on our floor hall in their room? We ask that you utilize the common lounges for that. If you have individuals in your space, the reason why we are saying limit it to 1 person is because the transmission of COVID. COVID in small rooms can be easily transmitted that way.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you, Josh. So Josh, can I have you answer this question? Do we have a policy to ensure safety and security if there were to be a active shooter on campus or a bomb threat made?
We do indeed have a policy for both bomb threat and active shooter. Of course, in these incidents, we will work closely with AUPD, our police department here on campus, who we have a close relationship with. We will also cover that policy with our professional and student staff. In the event of an active shooter, you should either try to run, fight, or shelter in place. There would be a lot of announcements in both of these instances. So you want to make sure that you sign up for the alerts through AUPD so that you're informed of all these incidents and what to do.
I'm sorry, as people add them, I lose track of where I am.
I saw a question about Nerf guns.
Yes. Do you want to answer that one, Marianne?
Nerf guns or any sort of fake weapons are not allowed in the hall at any time. They will be confiscated. You can always get them back when you do go to move out at the end of the year, but they are not allowed whatsoever.
If we have bigger items that we're moving in after the move-in dates, fridges, couches, etc., are we allowed to have someone non-AU affiliated, like a friend or family member, help us move the items in? No. Again, we're not allowing anyone non-AU affiliated into the residence hall starting tomorrow, August 30th, which would be midnight this evening. During a fire alarm, do we take our emotional support animals with us or out? Yes, if you are in your space at the time, you will be able to take your animal with you. That is totally acceptable. You are responsible for caring for them during the fire alarm. If you are not in your space at the time, we will have you keep them in the space. You won't go back into the building to get them. And once the all clear is given, you will be able to re-enter the building. just have a lot of questions. I'm sorry. Can we use a water heater in the common area or not at all? Open heating elements are not allowed. So if you think like a teapot, if you're considering like an electric kettle, you can use that in the lounge. You cannot use that in your space. So make sure whatever you are utilizing is not an open heating element. Very good question here. When can we expect fire drills and how many times do we have them per semester? We do one fire drill per semester. It's typically within the first 3 weeks. It's ideally between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. They will not be at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., or anything like that. We try to plan them strategically to not disrupt your sleep. So please know that we only do them once a semester. So please know that every time the alarm sounds, it should be taken seriously. So there is a question here that's a little more specific, and I don't know the location. It asks about a door to a stairwell that won't unlock even if they use their one card. I'm assuming this is the first floor of Anderson. It's because that is a academic area, so you're not able to enter that space. The emergency exit is actually the floor below that, so make sure that you go all the way down. That will not be accessible by you as residents. If it is a different location, please email your community director so we can follow up. Is pepper spray or protection allowed? For protection allowed? No, actually, in the District of Columbia, pepper spray would not be allowed. You would have to have that registered, I believe, as a weapon. That is a great question for AUPD. So I will make sure that we, Josh, if we can take note of that to make sure we follow up on exactly how we were told that, because that is something that I have seen before that AUPD has not allowed. Camila, can I have you answer this one? If my roommate has something that is not allowed in our room without my knowledge, could I get in trouble even if I had no idea it was there? And can you go a step further? And if my roommate has something in the room that I don't want there, how would I go about making sure that it is removed?
I'll start with the second part. We always encourage you all to start having a conversation with each other and just talk about it. And your RA can be there to help you out with that facilitation. Today at your floor meeting with your RA, they'll also go through the residential living agreements, the RLAs, which are basically like a roommate or a suite mate agreement where you'll sit together and talk through how you want to exist in the space together and what your expectations are of each other. And so that will be a really great place to start that. And for the second part of the conversation, if you had no idea that something was there that shouldn't be there, then you won't be held accountable to that. If you did have an idea that something was there and you didn't say anything about it, that's a different story. And we would follow up with a conversation with you on that. It is case by case, yes, like Josh mentioned.
Okay. I'm just reading some more questions. So what if my RA has scheduled an in-person meeting in place of an online one? Your RA is able to schedule an in-person meeting. They may have in-person meetings this evening. That is okay. You should be wearing your masks at all times when you are not inside your residence hall or taking a shower. So please make sure that you are doing that for those this evening.
And Katie, can I add on to that? Hopefully you can hear me clearly. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So as Katie said, there will be several opportunities, including this evening, where your RA or apartment assistant might have an in-person meeting. We will continue to program as well throughout the semester. Part of living on campus with 4,000 people is that residential experience that we still want you to enjoy, but we want you to do that with health and safety in mind. So as Katie said, face coverings will be required at all of our, whether it's a program, whether it's a meeting. We will consider the space limitations. So we won't have a big program with 100 people if the space doesn't allow for that. We also will be making sure that we take attendance at our meetings and at our programs so that we're able to contact trace properly. So there's a number of steps that we will take, whether it's a program or a meeting, to ensure that health and safety are still in mind.
Okay. If someone already mailed us a letter, not a package, when will we be able to see it in our mailboxes? So yesterday around 9 a.m., every resident should have gotten an email that stated that they are able to now pick up a mail key from the front desk. I encourage you, if you are going to get mail, that you pick it up. If you're not going to get mail and you often lose things, do not pick up your mail key because you will be charged for it. But it takes typically, once it's received on campus, I would say less than 24 hours for the mail to be sorted and put into your mailbox. So you could have a piece of mail in your mailbox already. Can I have a CD answer this question? Will there be room checks or health and safety inspections? This student said they previously had this at another institution.
Yes, indeed, there will be. But we let you know beforehand. Sorry, that was my dog. But we let you know beforehand. So
we have a question about, do we have any Good Samaritan laws or regulations? So I can answer this one. Yes, we do. It's not called Good Samaritan laws. That would be something that would be a law for the government. We allow students, if a student were to say, call in an incident, my friend is intoxicated and needs medical assistance, we sort of have an amnesty rule. We will not be charging you with a charge for the conduct process because you call and get assistance for a friend who needs assistance. Granted, there's always going to be a caveat to that. If we walk into a space and there is alcohol present or something along those lines, we still need to follow our process. But we will always ask to take the health and safety of your peers seriously, and that if you need to call for help, call for help. We're still getting a few more questions about our guest policy, whether if somebody were to have their vaccination card, if they're accepted, if they would be accepted to the residence hall. No, again, only AU affiliated students will be allowed into the residence halls as guests. You are allowed to have one guest in your space at a time. This is something that will be revisited by the university as the semester goes on and we see changes within the CDC's recommendations and how the university can adjust based on that.
So, Katie, I think that there are a number of questions that we have answered. Some questions that we might not have the capacity or time to get to. But I do want to remind folks again of all the policies are outlined in the email that we sent with the links to those policies. We do want to allow time for you to meet with your apartment assistant or your RA in your breakout rooms where you can ask additional questions. But if you do have further questions after reading the policies, you can contact your community director again by visiting our webpage and emailing them if you need any kind of clarification on policy or procedures.
Any other things we want to address? I did see one on here that I am going to say. It says, how do I subscribe to AU alerts? As a student, you're automatically put into the AU alerts and you should be getting them automatically to your phone. Good. All righty. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us this evening. We know that you have more questions. Like Josh said, please be sure to communicate any information to your community director or your RA, and we will help answer those as we go. All righty. Well, thank you very much.
YouTube.
Have a wonderful night.
Thanks for your engagement on YouTube, everybody.
Yeah, shout out to y'all. Safe